Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are checking into a world that's incredibly high stakes and high pressure. The inner workings of major multilingual hotels. If you just look at the raw talent in hospitality, I mean, the people interacting with guests every single day, it is astonishingly diverse.
It really is.
We're talking about people speaking 2, 3, maybe even 4 languages from all these different cultures. And on paper, you'd think this diversity would be a massive, like an undisputed superpower for any hotel.
It should be, yeah.
But the sources you shared with us, all this research, it reveals this critical short circuit. That powerful diversity, if you don't have the right support, it creates these huge, costly points of failure. So our mission today is to really dig into the data, unpack where communication breaks down, and not just between staff and guests, but I think crucially, internally, among the team itself.
Right.
And then we need to identify what specific investments can turn that from a burden into a real strength.
It's the ultimate paradox of the service industry, and it's a perfect topic for a deep dive, where you want fast, thorough knowledge. We're looking beyond just simple translation mistakes here.
Okay.
The core insight from all these sources is how a simple language confusion, which might be a minor thing in an office, can just explode into a major service disaster.
Especially with the speed and pressure of a hotel lobby.
Exactly. The speed and pressure, that's the key.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start right where the rubber meets the road, the front line, staff and guests. So the research says the immediate issue, right off the bat, is this reliance on English as the default workplace language. Even when so many talented staff members aren't, fully confident in that specific kind of conversational English.
Exactly. And this puts them at a distinct disadvantage the second they clock in. They're already playing catch up, especially with a guest who's stressed or has a complicated request.
And the research gives some really clear, practical examples of where this goes wrong. We're not talking about abstract ideas. We're talking about basic transactions failing.
Yeah, simple stuff.
Simple stuff. Like, think about trying to clearly explain a really complex hotel policy. A cancellation penalty or a fee for a late checkout.
Or taking a food order. A really detailed food order, especially with allergies or special preparations involved.
Oh, that's a huge one.
That's where a miscommunication goes from an inconvenience to a real health risk. Or, at best, an infuriated guest who's been waiting an hour for the wrong meal.
So let's trace that path. A staff member, maybe they're on the late shift, is struggling to explain the baggage storage policy. They just don't have the specific words like liability waiver or secure holding area.
Right, so they use simpler language. Imprecise language.
And the guest hears what they want to hear. They assume their expensive laptop is fully insured and they can get it back instantly.
And what's fascinating is that the staff member, they probably know they didn't communicate it perfectly, but there's no system to help them fix it. They just have to move on to the next person in line.
Right, the line is growing.
But those little mistakes, that's what the sources call them, they don't stay little. In a busy hotel, that one error just gets blown way out of proportion. It creates risk down the line.
So then the guest comes back.
The next staff member has no idea what happened. There's no record. And now you have a conflict at the front desk that started from a simple vocabulary gap hours earlier.
And we've all felt that, right? That little nod of frustration when you ask a simple question, like how the key card works, and the answer you get back is close, but just wrong enough to be a problem.
Yeah, it erodes trust.
It completely erodes loyalty. And you have to think about the staff members internalizing that pressure, knowing they're failing to help someone, not because they don't care, but because they lack one specific tool. But here's where it gets, for me, really interesting. The breakdown isn't just with the guests.
No, not at all. That's just what's visible.
Right. The sources stress that these huge communication problems are happening within the team, behind the scenes. Let's shift our focus there now.
If you're looking at operational efficiency, the single most critical failure point is the shift handover.
The handover, of course.
Hospitality is a 24/7 operation, right?
Yeah.
And that continuity depends completely on transferring information perfectly from one person to the next.
So if you have crucial details like a room needs an emergency repair,
Yeah.
or a VIP guest needs a specific kind of pillow.
Or a security concern with a car in the garage, yeah.
Yeah.
If that is only conveyed verbally between two people who might not even share a native language, the whole system is just incredibly fragile.
It's not just the words getting lost, it's the context, the audit trail.
Precisely. The sources are clear. Without standardized written procedures, that information gets misinterpreted or misremembered or just completely forgotten.
It's like that game of telephone.
It's exactly like telephone, but played in a chaotic, high-speed environment where the stakes are real. The message mutates from "don't disturb room 301 before 9 a.m." to "make sure 301 is clean first," and boom, operational failure.
And then you add in what you call the nonverbal noise. It gets even more complex.
That's right, because communication, especially in a team under stress, is so much more than just words. You have, for example, huge variations in directness.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in one culture, a manager might use very soft, indirect language to give an order to kind of maintain harmony. But a staff member from a different background might need a very direct, explicit command to understand that it's urgent.
So the indirect message just gets interpreted as a suggestion.
It gets lost, yeah. And think about body language, gesticulation. Someone who uses big hand movements to show enthusiasm might be seen as aggressive by a colleague from a more reserved culture.
I can absolutely see that.
And tone of voice. A raised voice can mean passion to one person and just outright anger to another. All these things combine to make teamwork incredibly complicated and, frankly, emotionally draining.
So with all this internal clashing of styles, managers must be noticing a dip in efficiency, in morale.
They absolutely are, and one of the studies directly supports this. It found that managers report much lower satisfaction with communication when their teams are not given the right tools or training to bridge these gaps.
So it's a leadership issue.
In essence, yeah.
Right.
If management doesn't invest in the communication infrastructure, they can't expect a diverse team to just magically figure it out on their own. The dissatisfaction stems from the lack of support, not from the staff themselves.
That makes so much sense. And the staff, they know there's a gap, so they try to fill it. What's the main coping mechanism the research points to?
The quick fix, the
Yeah.
Band-Aid. It's the translation app.
On their phone?
Yep. They grab their phones, step away from the guest, and try to use an algorithm to solve a complex, real-time human interaction.
So they're trying to outsource the most nuanced part of their job to a piece of software that has zero context.
Exactly. And the research is very clear on why this is not a sustainable solution. The apps are just not always correct, especially when things are chaotic and you need speed.
They might get a noun right, but not the industry jargon or the cultural nuance.
Right. Ask an app to translate, "Please ensure the linens are double sheeted for the VIP," and it might give you something useless or even comical, and you've just wasted precious time and made things more stressful.
And this creates this vicious cycle. Can we just summarize what that cumulative impact looks like?
Yeah, the progression is really clear. You start with this ongoing, low-level miscommunication. That leads directly to delays in service.
Which leads to unsatisfied guests.
Unsatisfied guests, bad online reviews, and internally you have this immense, constant stress on the staff. They feel like they're failing despite having all these amazing language skills.
They're trying to solve a huge systemic failure with a 5-second app query.
It's an impossible situation. And it leads to burnout, high turnover.
That's a really powerful synthesis because it brings it back to the bottom line. It makes the economic argument that hotels have to stop, just hoping their teams figure it out.
Just hoping for the best.
And start treating communication as a core piece of their operational DNA, a strategic investment.
Yeah.
So what's the path forward? The sources seem to have a pretty clear mandate for leadership here.
A very clear mandate. Hotels have to stop just reacting to these daily frustrations and start being proactive. They have to invest in better communication techniques.
And the research lays out a roadmap, right? It seems to fall into 3 main areas.
Yes. 3 core actionable solutions: training, systems, and culture. And we need to understand what each one actually looks like in practice.
Okay, let's start with training.
So first, language training. And this can't just be some generic English class. It has to be formal, supportive, and tailored to industry-specific situations.
Role-playing difficult conversations.
Exactly. Role-playing how to handle a room complaint or explain a fire drill using the precise terminology until it's second nature. It's about bridging that confidence gap we talked about.
Right. Knowing how to order a coffee is not the same as knowing how to handle a plumbing emergency.
Not at all. The second area is clear handover systems. This is what fixes the internal chaos. It means creating standardized, mandatory, and most importantly, written procedures for all critical information.
Digital logs, basically.
Digital logs, shared platforms. If a detail matters, it gets logged where everyone can see it. That ensures continuity, it prevents misinterpretation, and it creates an audit trail. It holds everyone accountable.
Okay, so training systems, what's the third piece?
The third is culturally aware teamwork. This is about building the culture itself. It means actively teaching methods to reduce misunderstandings around style, gesture, and tone.
So you're making the implicit explicit.
That's a great way to put it. You're acknowledging that people communicate differently, and you're creating a set of ground rules for how the team will confirm instructions, give feedback, and signal urgency. It's about creating psychological safety across those cultural lines.
It sounds like a lot of work, but the payoff seems massive.
Hmm.
You're going from daily frustration to a real competitive advantage.
An undeniable advantage.
Because when a hotel actually supports its employees in these three ways, with the right training, the right systems, and that cultural awareness, that's when the language diversity finally stops being a liability.
It stops being something managers are dissatisfied with.
And it becomes that high-performing competitive superpower we were talking about at the start. So, to quickly summarize our deep dive for you, we saw the high cost of miscommunication between staff and guests over simple things like policies and orders. And then we saw the massive internal chaos driven by verbal handovers and those unseen nonverbal cues. And the core lesson is really about infrastructure. Simple support systems, like written procedures and targeted training, aren't just employee perks. They are essential business tools.
And that leads us to a final, provocative thought to leave you with. We know managers are less satisfied when they don't provide support, and we know staff are resorting to these unreliable apps in the middle of chaos.
Right.
So think about the real financials here. What is the calculated hidden cost of not providing this support? If a proper training program costs X dollars, how many service delays, how many bad reviews, how many lost customers does that investment prevent over a year?
Wow.
We want you to really consider the economic weight of effective communication. It's the difference between a brand that thrives and an operation that's just sputtering along under stress.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. The true cost of being lost in translations is a lot higher than the price of a training program. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.